statement. Grace is a person. It's not in just the things I just said here. And I said, who saved you? You know, and of course, you know, the answer is Jesus. Jesus saved me. You know, but Jesus is a person. You know, but the Bible says we're saved by grace. It says grace saved us. Well, there's not a conflict there. You know, is it grace or is it Jesus? The answer is yes. You know, grace is, the first time the word grace appears in the Bible is in Genesis 6, where the Bible says Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. So grace has eyes. Grace has hands. Grace is a person, and, you know, his name's Jesus. And I think it's important to know that and to emphasize that. And because that way grace doesn't come and go. Grace is not what you say before you eat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah. There's nothing wrong praying over your food and thanking God for it. But you know, I think we've watered down in the church the term grace. And we've heard it and used it so much, I think we've lost the real biblical meaning of what grace really is.
Grace revolution. It's interesting to see. I know at one point in time you were even considering that it would probably be one of the greatest divides in the church, you know.
Yeah.
Can you emphasize on that?
Well, I think we're seeing it. I think we're seeing it. I don't want to go into naming names, but I mean, there have been authors well known that have come out, and you can go in any Christian bookstore, go online, and you'll find books warning about grace. They'll normally use the term hyper grace, and they warn us about, you know, hyper grace teachers or hyper grace doctrine or whatever. And but to refer to grace anything less than hyper is biblically inaccurate and blasphemous to me, because Paul said, you know, that grace may abound. That word abound means superabundant.
Hyper.
It means hyper. And Paul called it hyper grace. And, you know, I don't see anybody complaining about hyper love or hyper, you know, warning us about, be careful about that hyper love.
It's too much love.
Yeah, too much love.
Water it down.
Or even hyper forgiveness. Don't, you know, be afraid, you know, about that. But, you know, there just seems to be part of the church that is terrified of the message of grace in its undiluted form, because they are, again, it's always the base root of this in them is that they're afraid that people will just sin, you know, irrespective. They will just sin crazily if they hear the message of grace, that know that they are eternally accepted, they are eternally forgiven, and it's not based on their performance. Then they'll just go, well, what the heck? I'll just I'll do what I want to because I'm not worried about it. But, you know, to me, I'm coming up on 40 years of marriage to our next anniversary, me and my wife. And her love for me has never made me want to go out and sin against her. In other words, you know, it's not like, okay, well, now she's in covenant with me. She said, to death do us part.
I can do whatever I want.
I can do whatever I want. I can sleep with all the women I want to sleep with, because she's already said that she's going to love me. She's not going to divorce me. Only death will separate us. So why not? Nothing in her love for me has ever made me want to go out and live that way. And for people to accuse church of that, Jesus is our husband. We're his wife. His love for me does not make me want to go out and commit spiritual adultery on him and to just sin, you know, crazy, because that's not who I am. Sin's not natural for me now, not in my spirit. Your flesh can develop a sin habit, but in your spirit, you're just like Christ. That's what the Bible says in 1 John, that as he is, so are we in this world. And how is Jesus? I mean, he's sinless, spotless, loved by the Father, pleasing to the Lord, all these things. And we just have to live out that truth.